Hello everyone. It's February 17th, Wednesday, and I can't believe how cold it is. I've been cold all day. I've got my down jacket on. I can't get warmed up. Well, things went great this past Sunday at our ordination installation service for our new officers. That was a great time, and I'm looking forward to working with those new officers on our session and our diaconate. We also prayed for Steve Turner. As you know, Steve had this bone marrow transplant, and then he went back to the hospital with a little fever, but everything's well. Steve is back home, and he's feeling fine. And so we praise God for that answered prayer. Well, the encouraging word today is from Psalm 139, and I just couldn't latch on to one verse. I want to read several of them. But let me start out just to introduce it in this way. You know, one of the concerns, certainly in this digital age, is privacy. People are concerned about the privacy of their personal information, privacy related to online social media stuff. I was talking to someone recently, and he told me that there were some people in his workplace who were afraid to get the COVID vaccine because they had heard that the government is implanting some sort of microscopic tracking chips in the vaccine, and so they don't want the government to track them. Certainly concerns about privacy, some real and some fantasy. But of course, that's something we value. We want to keep things close to the vest. We don't want people to know the things about ourselves that we think they should not know. Well, Psalm 139 is really a psalm that explodes our privacy, because it is a psalm about God's omniscience, about God knowing all things. And David in this psalm describes his reaction to the knowledge that God knows him completely inside and out. And he says some interesting things. So let me read a few things, and I'll focus on one verse that's kind of the encouraging word. He says, "O Lord, you've searched me and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, O Lord." So he has this sense that everything he does, even words before he speaks them, God knows those things. Well, it's interesting, in the middle part of the psalm, David reflects on that, and in some ways it makes him nervous. He talks about God hemming him in, a sense that he can't get away from God, and that could be sort of a negative feeling in some ways. But at the very end, David comes around, and he ends the psalm this way, really embracing God's omniscience. And he says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." And so where David ends with God's omniscience is this sense that this is truly wonderful, for God to know me completely, to know everything about me. David sort of invites that in. He embraces it. You know, I've told you this before from the pulpit as a sermon illustration, but one of Allison's favorite movies is Rocky, the first Rocky movie. And in fact, when we were expecting our first child, and I said, if she's a girl, I want to name her Andrea, okay, after me, you know, after her father. But Allison wanted to name her Adrian, and she got that name out of the Rocky movie. And of course, men watch Rocky to see him fight Apollo Creed, but women watch the Rocky movie to see his romance with Adrian. And if you remember how that progresses in the movie, she is this very shy, quirky person. She is withdrawn, pulled in on herself. She's in a very unhappy home. And Rocky pursues her. He wants to get to know her, and he finds out things about her. He finds out she's got a quirky personality, and she likes pets, and in his odd way, he tries to get closer to her. And of course, over the course of the movie, as he becomes a better boxer, she blossoms, and she becomes a more beautiful person. And at the very end, you remember the dramatic scene. He's crying out, "Adrian!" and she comes running through the crowds, and she's transformed, and she's quite beautiful. What's happened is his knowledge of her, his knowledge of who she is as a person, has transformed her into someone beautiful. She's known, she's loved. And that's what David is getting at in this psalm. This wonderful fact that God knows us, and through Christ, even though we're sinners, we can be forgiven, and we can embrace God's knowledge of us, and in a sense invite that knowledge into our lives and hearts. Well, I want to leave you with that. I know that during this odd COVID time, some people have been particularly lonely and discouraged, and there's a sense of isolation. Psalm 139 is a reminder that the God of all the universe knows us. He knows everything about us. And like David, we can embrace that knowledge and invite God to know us more. And that can transform us and make us into more beautiful Christ-like people. Well, may that encourage you. Read Psalm 139 this week, and I'll see you on the Lord's Day.